From 7 to 5, Saturday from 8 to noon, and closed on Sunday. Call East West Rental Center, 646-1463, or visit them in Upper Dumont.
Social distancing math. Tossie is infected with COVID-19. She still goes out because she and her friends think it doesn't affect them. Tossie infects 3 friends. Each one infects 3 more. In 30 days, 244 people are infected, including someone's Nana. Most recover, but Nana dies. Reduce your social contact. If you only infect 1 person, in 30 days, the virus spreads to only 4 people. Stay home, stop the spread, save lives.
During this time of great uncertainty, Security Title is working to support our essential banks. We are working for the family who would have been homeless if their purchase was delayed, for the families refinancing to lower mortgage payments, for the contractor who has fronted the cost to build a home, and the surveyors, appraisers, inspectors, and the realtors who cannot make a living without selling a house. With our office doors locked and our essential team members complying with all government protocols, in our own small way, Security Title continues to serve our community.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
Now, a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. I don't see how I could possibly say it more clearly than that, Real Joe Cruz.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Pew, 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 pew.
That's it, you know. Keep and bear arms. Constitutional rights. Second Amendment. United States Constitution. Tall Tales. Everything you need in one package. So here we are again for another exciting adventure of Tall Tales on the 7th of May. And right after Tall Tales, right after the Second Amendment, we go straight to Zemi-Ikotni, and then after that we usually go to Martinez, right?
Yes, sir. if you award a Blue Star.
One of the regular features of the program. Okay, so let's hear the theme for that part of the program. Real Joe Cruz. And as usual, no editorial, no local editorial from the Daily News. What else is new? Everybody out there in the international radio listening audience is saying, shh, yeah, what else is new? This time, Trump respects military, right? Trump disrespects military, its values. Typical USA Today boilerplate from Gannett News Service or one of their other feeder groups. Hardly worth paying any attention to. They're always the same. They always come from Gannett News Service or USA Today. 99% of the time they're bashing Trump. 102% of the time they don't have anything to do with our local situation here on Guam, notwithstanding the fact that the Pacific Daily News holds itself out as our daily newspaper. So we go from there to the Post, which almost day in, day out runs pretty credible editorials. Today, it's the double standard in the use of emergency powers in Guam. This editorial only goes about 2.5 pages, but if they want to write about the double standard in the use of emergency powers in Guam, you'd need something about the size of a Sears Roebuck catalog in order to list them all. But here's how the editorial starts. Quote, I heard the people's cry. Can we have a little bit of appropriate? And this, of course, is from Lou's press release. This is what the governor said. I heard the people's cry. This was part of the governor's message in an interview with the Guam Daily Post on Wednesday as she faced weeks of criticism for the local government's slow actions to help the thousands of Guam households that are strapped for cash. Enough, Real Joe Cruz. Anymore. And that along with the text here, and I'm going to need an anti-emetic. All right, we now enter the third month of the Wuhan virus economic downturn. And once again, folks out there, we had someone called yesterday who identified himself to the Real Joe Cruz as a long-time listener, first-time caller. But the Real Joe Cruz Blue is covered, isn't you? But there probably are folks out there who are short-time listeners and don't know that when I see the phrase COVID-19, I use my editorial authority to change it to what it really should be, which is Wuhan virus. Back to the editorial. We now enter the third month of this Wuhan virus economic downturn. The governor said while she heard people's cries, and that's how the editorial started, I heard the people's cry. The governor said while she heard people's cries, her hands were tied by the stringent rules on the spending of public funds. You know, like you can't lease property without a written contract. It has to go through the chief procurement. Oh, no, wait a minute. That never happened, did it? No, I always, something about the 19th floor, I always get drawn back there, Real Joe Cruz. The governor said while she heard the people's cries, her hands were tied by the stringent rules on the spending of public funds. She couldn't act quickly enough in the use of federal funds for economic relief for households because GovGuam might not get reimbursed for its expenses by the federal government if rules were not followed. Quote, we could not spend the money till we got the guidelines. Therefore, we weren't able to rent any rooms on the 19th floor to use as a quarantine space except the presidential suite. No, that's not right either. Where's that horn, Real Joe Cruz? Yeah, the Real Joe Cruz will beep that horn whenever I'm involved in any kind of sarcasm or tall tales type exaggeration. The $117 million arrived weeks ago, and it's separate from the nearly $108 million in economic impact relief funds GovGuam has also received, this time to provide aid directly to individual taxpayers. The governor has faced numerous criticism. No, that doesn't read right. The governor has faced numerous criticism. You can't have criticism is not what's called a countable noun. You know, it's not like it's like furniture and equipment. You can't have three furnitures. I went down to Home Depot and I bought three furnitures and four equipments, but it was not a fun trip because I suffered three criticisms in the process.
So what would be proper there? Much criticism?
Yeah, non-countable nouns take quantitative adjectives.
I see.
Much criticism, an SL of criticism.
A plethora?
A plethora of probably an SL would be the best one, though.
Yeah. You
know what an SL is, I'm sure.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So let me use my editorial pen here again. The governor has faced SL criticism for waiting longer than needed to launch economic relief programs to help, in particular, Guam's private sector workers who have been furloughed or laid off, while the paychecks for local government employees and officials remain intact, if not fatter.
Did you say fatter, sir?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow. Boy, I'll tell you what, the Post is getting pretty politically incorrect. You can't use the word fat. You could say, you could use a avoirdupois. Where's Frenchie when we really need him? Challenged in an avoirdupois manner, but not fatter. No. Okay. The governor's stance to stick to the rules is understandable, even if invisible. No. Maybe even admirable, had she applied the process to all. But she didn't. The decision on who gets fast-track government action boiled down to who had the most sway in convincing our local government their needs are priority over others. In the Wednesday interview with the Post, we heard the governor acknowledge that her administration, led by the efforts of her legal counsel. Now, counsel provides a valuable function. You know, it's that objective viewpoint. Lawyers are pretty good. One of the things that lawyers are supposed to do is they're supposed to be able to compartmentalize. You know, they're supposed to say, well, this person is my client, and I want my client to get a good result. But in order to do that, sometimes I have to tell him things that might cause him to lose a little sleep at night. You know, that. So a good objective lawyer who can come right along and say, yeah, you know, Mr. Client, excuse me, Mr. Client? Well, Mr. Them, or well, them, I understand why you want to take that course of action, but I have to tell you, that's not a good idea, because that's what lawyers are supposed to do, right? So here we go here. Back to the editorial. In Wednesday's interview with the Post, we heard the governor acknowledge that her administration, led by the efforts of her legal counsel, so it's probably going to be okay, right? It's probably going to be within the bounds of the law, probably going to be objective, no subjective, nothing outside the law, just as Jack Webb used to say on Dragnet, the facts, ma'am, just the facts, right? That's all it would be. Led by the efforts of her legal counsel, who also happens to be her son-in-law.
Consigliere.
Her son-in-law. Well, you remember, I think you asked me when the first time this came up, you said to me, Bob, is that nepotism? And my answer was, yeah, it's nepotism, but nepotism's okay if you keep it in the family. Wasn't that how it went, Rachel? Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Led by the efforts of her legal counsel, who also happens to be her son-in-law, used the powers under her public health emergency declaration to skip the, quote, traditional process of committing GovGuam to buying or paying for services. The traditional process. Now, I have Black's Law Dictionary. It's a great big thick book. It's literally about 5 inches thick. And one of the first things you do when you go to law school is you buy Black's Law Dictionary. I suspect people still do it, even though we have legal resources online. And I looked up the word traditional in Black's Law Dictionary, and it says legal. But it's an old book. It goes all the way back to 1971. I'm sure the legal definition of traditional has changed since then. Used the powers under the Public Health Emergency Declaration to skip the, quote, traditional process of committing GovGuam to buying or paying for services. The governor was okay with a fast-track process to hire 4 hotels. The Pac Star, the Wyndham Garden, Days Inn, and Santa Fe as quarantine sites. The governor explained this was because the need for hotels was urgent, as travelers needed to be placed in 14-day quarantine. Now GovGuam is stuck with getting more bills for hundreds of mostly empty hotel rooms at these quarantine sites. Well, you can't blame, you can't hold Becky and what's the other one's name? Becky and
Rebecca and Alice?
Alice, yeah. Do we put the blame on, don't Rebecca and Alice have enough friends to fill those rooms?
True.
I would think so, yeah. They've been in government for a long time, so, come on, Rebecca and Alice. Empty rooms. Now she can't guarantee these expenses, estimated at $4 million, would be reimbursed by FEMA. She can't guarantee that. The governor reasoned that there was no favoritism. There's nothing to see here, no favoritism in the selection of these hotels because they were the only ones that were willing to provide the service to GovGuam. And I know that because, I remember before those leases were let, I remember seeing notices in the papers. Wanted hotel rooms for quarantine sites. Did you see those notices, Real Joe Cruz?
The request for proposal, sir?
Yeah. Did you see those in the paper?
Every day.
You did, huh? Yeah, remember the name of this program is Tall Tales. Yeah. And then the governor went on to say, it's not like there was a line of hotels waiting to be selected to be a quarantine hotel, the governor said. At the urging of the governor's legal counsel and son-in-law, Hai Hun, advance payments were also issued to the hotels, but there was a good reason. If you look at, I'm going to go into the procurement law later on in the Linda DeNorsi section of the card, if I get there, and there's an express prohibition against paying advance payment in the procurement law. You just don't do that. And I will also show you that the governor's magical powers don't extend to that portion of the procurement law. However, at the urging of Mr. Huynh, Esquire, the governor's son-in-law, advance payments were issued to the hotel. Really good reason, though. As Huynh said in emails, the hotels needed help with, quote, cash flow issues. The poor babies. While providing rooms for GovGuam's quarantine, we would be remiss if we failed to mention that thousands of our fellow Guamanians had been suffering cash flow issues. Now, I know there are probably thousands of people out there that are not suffering cash flow issues. You want to know why, Real Joe Cruz?
Why, sir?
If you don't have any cash at all, you don't have cash flow issues. Suffering cash flow issues with the reduced hours and furloughs that began even before the official shutdown of non-essential businesses in the third week of March. What has become apparent is that GovGuam has the power to fast-track its actions if it wants to, such as in hiring hotels and paying them advance because they're having cash flow issues. It has also become obvious that GovGuam had the power to skip the bureaucratic processes for faster delivery of assistance to everyday residents who are struggling. But in this case, it chose the slow path. This sounds like a Robert Frost poem, right?
Ooh, yeah.
Two roads.
Very, very dramatic, sir.
Yeah, can you give me some dramatic music for that one? That's too dramatic. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, the one that led to advanced payments for hotels. Yeah, I think... Where's our poet laureate now that we need him? Maybe we can get the poet laureate to work on two roads diverging in the wood. Yeah. Hello, Andrew. I hope you're listening today. The double standard is sobering. Where was the advocacy from the governor's advisors? Well, the advocacy from the governor's advisors, why, her own son-in-law advised her what to do. Her own son-in-law said, you got to pay these hotels in advance for the quarantine rooms because they got cash flow issues. So does that answer your question, Guam Daily Post? Where was the advocacies from the governor's advisors? Oh, wait. For the everyday residents who have cash flow problems. That, I think, probably was in charge of Janella. Lou said, Janella, I know there are everyday residents out there with cash flow problems. I want you to give them a voice. Can you do that? And Janella says, yes, Governor, I can do that. I'll give them a voice. And in the process of giving them the voice, you know what she did, Rojo Cruz?
What, sir?
She pushed the mute button. Which is something they had a voice, but it was muted by Janella. I don't know. I'm just speculating here. I don't know if that's what happened or not, but you know, Janella's getting kind of typecast here as Miss Mute button. Okay, and here's the call to action. To our public officials, it's not enough that you hear the cries of your constituents. That's not enough. One would need the empathy to ensure rules are applied fairly. You don't even need a whole lot of empathy for that. You just kind of need to have a basic sense of the rule of law. Okay, well, this will be one of my easier calls here to make today. Even if the Guam Daily News had a barn burner of an editorial, I would probably still give the coveted Blue Star to the Post. Because what the Post put out today was a classic editorial. It did all the things that an editorial should do. And let's see, I got a call. Yeah, it's Martinez. Wow, what a surprise. Hey, Martinez, I really appreciate your waiting for me to finish the card before you call in. And I'm always...
Yeah, I was going to wait for you to award the Blue Star. I hope nobody calls until after you do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be better if they... Well, Mr. Legal Counsel, Mr. Attorney, here's why I'm calling. I know I'm stuck on this. Department Administration Director Ed Burm, here's his take on the double pay. He's quoting from the GARP, you know, Government Administrative Rules and Regulations, personnel. During the declaration of emergency double pay, he's quoting, he says, and I quote, it says, only if the employee's facility where they worked is closed, and the facilities were not closed. So Robert Koss the next day comes back from GFT and says, well, I guess you're saying the prison guards won't get double pay, as well as the fire workers, as well as the people in Homeland Security, as well as the police. He goes, I guess the only ones whose facilities were closed but had to come to work were the ones who had to make payroll every 2 weeks, and the DOE nurses. Now, what's your take on that? That's Burns' argument, because he's quoting the rules and regs for personnel, and it says only employees whose facilities were closed during the declaration of emergency, and these were not closed. What's your take on that?
So, well, let's clarify here. So he's saying that only people who come to work to a closed facility are entitled to the double pay?
Yes.
Yeah.
Whose facilities are closed.
Okay, well, that's
from the rules and regs.
That's pretty easy to get around. It's like the House and the Senate invite these fictions to show that they haven't adjourned. And like, you know, we went through this with a transmission of bills once upon a time where the governor sent a note to the legislature saying, when you send a bill to us, if it's a Saturday or a Sunday, the person at the front door government house will take charge of it. So it's the same kind of thing. So all you have to do is say that none of these facilities were closed. And that way there's no double pay if you want to apply that rule. I've got a lot of stuff to talk about on that when I get to the card, and it's the first item on the card.
So you will address that argument he's making, right?
Yeah.
That facility is closed.
Did that answer your question?
Well, see, his point is that it wasn't closed.
Yeah.
Therefore, they're not entitled to double pay.
Exactly. So all you have to do is say that. Let me take an example. Let's say the Department of Agriculture wasn't closed because there was a guy out there every day that swept the front sidewalk, and if you needed anything from Department of Agriculture, he would have helped you. Therefore, the department wasn't closed. Therefore, all of the Department of Agriculture people that came, other ones that came to work, don't get double pay. And the ones that stayed at home were not on administrative leave. They were actually on the payroll because, according to Burns, they could be called back on 2 hours' notice, called into the facility on 2 hours' notice. So I think my final conclusion here, Martinez, is that those government employees who actually were working at their jobs over this period of time, who thought they were going to get double pay, are going to feel the burn.
Okay. So I'll hear what you say about this on your show. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for calling, Martinez. All right, feeling the burn. And this time it's not Bernie Sanders. We have our, unlike the Daily News, we have our own burn right here on the island, right? Okay, first break coming up here.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts. Brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
Hofady, this is Kayla from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated team in Guam and the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Security Title, making sure you actually own the property you think you just bought.
We now return to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, soaring over the confusion with his superpowers of truth. Call 888-TALK. That's 888-8255.
So here we are back on Tall Tales again, still in the first half of Tall Tales. Thursday, Real Joe Cruz and I starting to feel a little bit down in the dumps because we've only got one more day of Tall Tales this week.
You could tell, huh, sir?
Yeah, but let's try to keep the spirit alive.
Push on, sir.
As much as we can, yeah. So I got a verse here from Ismail, who is also one of the poet laureates of Tall Tales, and he says, What do we do about incompetence, especially from someone who wants total dominance, someone who has little integrity, someone who believes in secularity, someone who doesn't value human life, someone who is always filled with strife, someone whose heart is 2 sizes too small? All we can do is recall. Ishmael has got away with words. Very good, Ishmael. Okay, here's the card. I've got first item on the card is Wuhan virus versus birth tourism. And from there I go to GFT versus Governor Lou Leon Guerrero. That's what Martinez was talking about. And then I've got Lou versus the 19th floor, and this is more Commissar de Norcy, forgery, the bus and being thrown under it, related topics. I've got Lou on decolonization and Romeo versus the media. But let me start out here with an easy one. Wuhan virus versus birth tourism. And the headline, this is one that ran in the Post. Tourist mother, newborn stuck on Guam. Snow Jung has been caring for her newborn infant without any help from her husband and other family members for weeks now. Jung came to Guam as a tourist when she gave birth at Guam Memorial in mid-April after having been self-quarantined at the Fiesta Resort for 14 days. Now, nearly 3 weeks later, she's unable to take her baby home to Hong Kong without a passport. The U.S. Passport Office at Department of Rev Tax is closed along with other non-essential government offices under a mandate by the government that went into effect on March 20. Except I suspect that the Passport Office really isn't closed for double pay purposes, probably just for passport purposes. She says, I want to go back to Hong Kong, but no passport for baby. I can't return. The 38-year-old teacher admits she came to Guam so her baby would be born in the United States and gain U.S. citizenship at birth, a controversial practice known as birth tourism. She said she wanted to give her baby a better life, but is now at a loss on how she will return home. Now, I put this on for a couple reasons. One, for the separatists. I wonder how many people are going, how many pregnant women go to China and have their babies in China so they could have an argument that they're citizens of the People's Republic of China, or just about any other country around the world besides this one. People will come here just for that. And the actual efficacy of that is this. If a child is born here, he will have a birth certificate that shows he was born a natural-born citizen of the United States. He will be able to obtain a United States passport for the rest of his life, showing that the United States passport at any consular facility of the United States in the world will entitle him to consular services, and he can enter any part of the United States at will. That's what it gets. But the benefits, the derivative benefits of United States citizenship, that is being able to petition others to come to the United States as immigrants, doesn't start until that baby is 21. So if a 38-year-old mother is thinking that she wants that baby to have a better life, she's looking ahead till she's 59 years old. It's okay, I guess. So, but here she is, caught in a catch-22. Of course, there's no consular services here for the People's Republic of China. I suspect that the People's Republic handles all of the consular services for the autonomous region of Hong Kong. So if the baby is entitled to a Hong Kong or a Chinese passport, which probably is under the rule of jus sanguinis, can't get it from here. She can't get a U.S. passport here on the island. She could do it by mail, but it's probably hard, for a young mother living by herself with a small baby, no car, in this time of Wuhan virus lockdown. So an interesting situation that she finds herself in. I suppose what we could think about doing is catering to birth tourism. a new industry for Guam, birth tourism, and set it up so that our passport office would have expedited service for these babies. Where's that horn of yours, Real Joe Cruz? Yeah, that's just being sarcastic. Yeah. So in this particular case, Snow Hyung, Snow, you put your money in the slot machine and pulled a handle, and it came up 3 lemons. Sorry about that. Okay, next item is GFT versus Lou. And the GFT, the Guam Federation of Teachers, is at least saber-rattling. The GFT says they're going to sue Lou, the governor of Guam. And the reason for the suit is that Adelup has taken a position, the governor has taken a position that those people who came to work during the Wuhan virus period are not entitled to double pay. Now, this requires a little bit of explanation. Up until yesterday, conventional wisdom was that most government of Guam employees were to stay home and get paid. Just get paid their regular pay, 40 hours a week, accrue leave and sick leave and the whole thing. But those who actually came to work were going to get paid for doing their jobs. And there is a regulation in the personnel rules of the government of Guam that says that people who, I'm paraphrasing here, who come to work are entitled to double pay. Well, I'm going to expose a little bit of personal bias here to start with. That just doesn't seem right, does it? That first of all, that people get paid to stay home and watch TV, and then that someone who actually comes to work and does the job that he's supposed to do gets double pay. Something about that picture that just doesn't fit very well. Then, of course, I always have to ask that nasty question that I ask when we come across these really nice benefits for government employees. Who's going to pay for it? You know, that's going to be a pile of money. If we're going to have to pay people to come to work, pay people double to do the work, to come to work and do their jobs. So it just didn't seem to work out very well at all. However, there is that rule in the Government of Guam Personnel Rules and Regulations that I don't have in front of me, but I have studied. So that's where we started. And then some really strange things happened that I've talked about before. The first strange thing that happened was that Senator Talina Nelson wrote to the governor and said, "Governor, according to Government of Guam personnel rules, you are supposed to be paying people who come to work during the Wuhan virus period. You're supposed to pay them double pay. And I understand you're not doing that. Would you please start paying these people double pay?" So that came up. And then like 3 days later, the governor executes an executive order that established a special pay for Wuhan virus workers, 3 brackets, 10%, 15%, and 25%. And to simplify, the 10% was for anyone who came to work instead of staying home and getting paid. That was the 10%. So I'm wondering, why is the governor doing that when we've already got this double pay provision in the personnel rules? One, it would seem like double pay would be enough of a reward for people coming to work during the Wuhan virus period. Now, Real Joe Cruz, I'm shortening this a little bit because if I were to do it the right way, every time I mention those people who actually come to work instead of staying home, I'm supposed to talk about hardworking GovGuam employees. Yeah, Remember, we've been into that, yeah. Everybody that you hear, I want to thank the hard-working GovGuam employees. Daphne Shimizu, I want to thank the hard-working employees at RevTax, on and on and on. So if you listen to that, apparently every single person who gets paid for in undertaking any task at all is hardworking here. And there is not a single lazy person, slough off, deadbeat, etc. on this island. They're all hardworking. But I'm going to skip that just to shorten this conversation. So Lou comes out with her executive order. And I'm thinking, does she know about the double pay and the personnel rules? And then the next thing she does is she says, I want the legislature to give me authority to pay my Wuhan virus pay retroactively. I've put it in place already, and we're going to pay it starting now, but I don't have the authority to pay it retroactively. Probably should have checked with Liz Anderson on how to go about doing that, the former Attorney General, who, when Governor Calvo was caught doing that, managed to fumble the ball enough so that it worked out. But it seems strange that she would do that. First of all, why pay for something that you already have? But, you know, when we're pandering to the hard-working government employees, there are no limits. But why would she want that bill? And if she did, why didn't she draft it herself and send it over, referencing her executive order and saying it could be paid retroactively? She didn't do that. So then Nelson introduced a bill. It came to the floor, and it was amended on the floor, and the governor vetoed the substitute and amended bill, when the bill did exactly what the governor asked. It gave her the authority to pay the executive order Wuhan virus pay retroactively. It enacted into statute the 3 brackets of Wuhan virus pay. So why would the governor veto that when it appeared to be everything she wanted? Now, at the same time that this is going on, my curious mind caused me to download the nasty letter software in my word processor, and I sent a sunshine law request to Janella, because Janella will accept all the sunshine law requests for the governor. Just you know. And I thought, you know, my sense was, well, I'll just send it to Janella instead of burdening the governor with it, et cetera. So I sent it to Janella. And what I asked, I cited the rule and the personnel rules, and I cited the governor's executive order, and I asked for all public records that would show how those two things would be coordinated. As an example, for those people who came to work and were entitled to 25% Wuhan virus pay, would it be 25% of double pay or 25% of single pay? Because nothing in the executive order or Nelson's bill, or in the personnel regs spoke to that. Well, Janella writes back, and I asked for the public records. This is what she told me the public records were, and I also asked for authority. She writes back and said the documents you're looking for are the Organic Act of Guam and Chapter 19 of Title 10, causing me to think that Janella has a mute button on her word processor, because that was not responsive to what I asked for. So I'm sitting there thinking, could they be so far out of touch with how the government of Guam operates that they don't understand that they've got to pay the double pay from the personnel rules? And Lou thinks that, well, since these people, these hardworking government employees, are actually coming to work instead of staying home, I want to give them an extra 10, 15, or 25%. I could understand that. Is that what you thought? I'm thinking. So the next thing that happens after that is the bill goes before the legislature. This is a little bit complicated, so I'll try to simplify it as much as I can. I don't think I'll be able to get through it before the halftime, but we'll finish it up today for sure.
Everyone has a busy schedule these days, and sometimes we forget to schedule our routine dental checkup and cleaning. Don't neglect your dental health. Schedule one today with Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team, conveniently located at the East West Business Center on Marine Drive, Upper Tumon. Call us today at 647-8702 or 3. Again, that's 647-8702 or 647-8703. We make smiles happen.
One of the easiest ways to prevent the spread of COVID-19 is to wash your hands with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Let this message help you time it. Start soaping up now. The coronavirus can't survive and multiply without a host, so don't give it that chance, especially if you're more susceptible to serious complications. Groups at higher risk include the elderly, those with impaired immune systems or asthma, or who are pregnant. Practice proper social distancing by staying 6 feet away from others. Choice Broadcasting reminds you to stay safe and stay clean. You can rinse now.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792. You can also visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
So let's see, where did I leave off with this incredibly convoluted trail? Okay, so then the bill comes before the legislature, and Lou vetoed the bill. And the bill was substituted and then amended on the floor. And here's the interesting provision in the bill. I don't think Therese Terlahi had anything to do with this bill because the operative sections are codified, unlike a Therese Terlahi project. But Section 2 of the bill adds a new Section 32120.1 titled Hazardous Pay in Support of the State of Emergency in Response to the Coronavirus Disease 2019. And the key provision here is this: D, subsection D, notwithstanding any provision of law, rule, or regulation or executive order, the provisions of the Department of Administration Personnel Rules and Regulations 8.406 authorizing payment at double the regular rate of pay shall apply to COVID-19 public health emergency. And I'm going to say COVID-19 when I'm reading from a bill or a statute, real Joe Cruz, although it's again kind of against my conscience. I'll do it anyhow. Apply to the COVID-19 public health emergency and shall be extended to employees eligible for COVID-19 hazardous pay differential. A COVID-19 hazardous pay differential shall be calculated and paid based on the regular rate of the employee. So, you know, taking you through the thought process I went through, okay, that answers it. Then the executive order 3-bracket Wuhan virus pay that Lou created by executive order is now put in place in statute. And the statute says that the 10, 15, 25 is added to base pay, not to double pay. And I'm thinking, this is exactly what Lou asked for. And then subsection D says those who are eligible, in order to be eligible for the double pay, you have to be eligible for the COVID-19 hazardous pay differential. Well, we look at that, and category 3 of the hazardous pay differential is this: hazardous pay differential to essential employees whose position do not allow them to telework and are mandated to perform their duties at the physical work sites determined by their agency heads as required by GovGuam's response to the COVID-19. So in other words, anybody who goes to work instead of staying home gets would get the 10% and the double pay. Okay, so far? So Lou vetoes this. And I'm thinking, what in the world is she thinking of? And her veto message says, it's with great regret. Can I have that music again, Real Joe Cruz? It is with great regret that I am forced to veto Substitute Bill 326. It goes without saying that any additional dollar we pay to a frontliner throughout the crisis is worth it. The same is true for essential government employees who keep government services running while other public sector employees are required to stay at home. Okay. Sad. She was really sad about this. She heard the government employees cry. But then she goes on to say, yet without the cash to make good on our promises, the desire to do good things is simply not enough. Under the measure as drafted, frontliners and other essential employees would be entitled to both double pay and COVID-19 differential pay initially established by Executive Order 2020-8. Although I anticipate being able to relax restrictions in phases, it's likely that this emergency may extend through July, giving a whole new meaning to the 4th of July, Independence Day. Under those conditions, this measure will require an additional $36 million just for payroll. Unfortunately, the legislature in its wisdom chose to vote on this measure without the benefit of the information or the presence of a fiscal note. Now, why would they do that? Why would they vote on this without a fiscal note or without any information? You want to know why, Lou? Because you told them you were in a hurry. And you want to know why else? Because you didn't tell them that you hadn't and were not going to pay the double pay. That's why. That's why they didn't think they needed the fiscal note or the financial information, because you were playing hide the ball. Not the first time. As you were, from a cash flow standpoint alone, meeting this new multi-million-dollar liability in the best of times would be extremely difficult. Meeting this obligation now, when the world economy is at a standstill, would cripple us. It goes on to say, should this measure become law, millions in cash must be paid in double pay and COVID-19 differential pay. This act would potentially leave debt payments, vendor payments, and payroll unfunded. Given the wide support this measure garnered, the potential success of an override attempt, and my obligation to prepare for cash needs. Okay, this is pretty good stuff, so we'll come back to this right after the big halftime show. I don't think we've got another promo for the 19th floor, do we, Real Joe Cruz?
I'm still looking into it, sir.
Thank you, Real Joe Cruz.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 93.3 FM and 104.3 HD3.
Not shutting down. I'm Jack Callahan, Fox News. President Trump says he's changed his mind about winding down the White House coronavirus task force.
I had no idea how popular the task force is. until actually yesterday. When I started talking about winding it down, I'd get calls from very respected people saying, I think it would be better to keep it going. It's done such a good job.
The president says he may add new members to the panel to help reopen the economy safely. The president also says the economic woes are not of his making.
The president admitted it'll be a rough road ahead for many, but we'll bounce back together.
Nobody's blaming me for that. I built the greatest economy with a lot of great people that we've ever had, and I'm going to rebuild it again.
The latest ADP survey reported that the private sector shed more than 20 million jobs in April. Meanwhile, the largest U.S. airlines were averaging just 17 passengers per domestic flight and collectively burning through $10 billion a month. Back on the ground, not much better. Uber's cut 14% of its workforce, while Lyft shed 17%. And Wendy's says its beef shortages could last for weeks.
Fox's Kevin Cork. California's Governor Gavin Newsom expected to announce today that some businesses can begin reopening on Friday.
I have no trepidation, all the confidence in the world that we will recover and we will be a stronger society. Will be a smarter society.
Well, the governor says that will take time. 2 16-year-old workers shot and wounded at a McDonald's restaurant in Oklahoma City, police say, by a woman who was upset when they told her the dining room was closed. The suspect was arrested a few blocks away. The girls are expected to recover. Styrene gas leaking from an industrial plant in southern India left people struggling to breathe and collapsing in the streets early Thursday. At least 8 people have been killed and nearly 1,000 suffered breathing difficulties. America is listening to Fox News.
Bored at home? Now's the perfect time to get things done. Start that project you've always wanted or finish one. At East West Rental Center, they know you've reached the end of the internet and need to get outside, and they're here to help. Get the right equipment: water blasters, wood chippers, mini backhoes, carpet cleaners, floor buffers, and much more. They're open Monday to Friday from 7 to 5, Saturday from 8 to noon, and closed on Sunday. Call East West Rental Center, 646-1463, or visit them in Upper Dumont.
Horizon Properties can empathize with individual property owners during this trying time. The last thing you should worry about is collecting rent or sending a repairman to your property. With their web-hosted property management system, Horizon can reach out to tenants, vendors, and owners alike and maintain the current prohibition requirements. Let Horizon Properties take care of it all. Help flatten the curve by remaining safe at home. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792 or visit horizonpropertiesguam.com. Horizon Properties, always there for you.
The Justice Department has released the long-awaited Mueller scope memo from then Acting Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, outlining the authority of former Special Counsel Robert Mueller, revealing the Mueller team was given much broader authority to investigate a wider range of alleged crimes than was previously known. The final report from the Mueller team found no evidence of collusion between the Trump presidential campaign and Russia. Ohio has reopened some businesses, will open more next week, now warning that workers who refuse to come back to work will be risking their unemployment benefits.
Beginning Monday in Ohio, non-essential businesses like construction, manufacturing, and others are being allowed to reopen. And the Ohio Department of Job and Family Services has sent emails to employers telling them to report workers who do not show up, saying, quote, Ohio law prohibits individuals from receiving unemployment benefits if they refuse to accept offers of suitable work. Polls show most workers in Ohio say it's too early for the state to reopen, and the state acknowledges there could be differences of opinion in regards to whether an employer is meeting health and safety standards. And workers who refuse to go back to work will be allowed to lay out their case before a review board.
Fox's Trace Gallagher. The 3 highest-ranking elected state officials in Texas all urging a state judge to relent and reverse his order that sent a Dallas beauty shop owner to jail for reopening her shop several days early and then refusing to apologize for it. Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick telling Fox News at night.
The judge could have simply said, let me give you a $50 fine, 1 day in jail, I'll suspend the sentence, or no time in jail at all, but just a suspended sentence, send her home. But this judge was vindictive.
Shelley Luther said she had to reopen to be able to feed her kids. She's been fined $7,000 as well, but nearly $500,000 has been pledged to an online fundraising campaign for her. I'm Jack Callahan. This is Fox News.
During this time of great uncertainty, Security Title is working to support our essential banks. We are working for the family who would have been homeless if their purchase was delayed, for the family's refinancing to lower mortgage payments, for the contractor who has fronted the cost to build a home, and the surveyors, appraisers, inspectors, and the realtors who cannot make a living without selling a house. With our office doors locked and our essential team members complying with all government protocols, in our own small way, Security Title continues to serve our community.
GRMC's cardiology department treats most complex heart problems. In our catheterization lab, cardiologists use imaging equipment to treat clogged arteries that can cause heart attacks or heart failure. We perform balloon angioplasty, stenting, and other life-saving cardiac procedures. If you suffer from a heart condition, have your provider refer you to GRMC's cardiology clinic at 645-5500. GRMC, where patients are partners.
Cocoa Coffee Company mugs are now here. Show pride for your island as you enjoy your delicious Circle K coffee. Each generously sized 16-ounce mug is etched with Guam-inspired images like Chief Gadao, Serena, Two Lovers, and many more. The Cocoa Coffee Company mug collection is available for a limited time only, so don't miss out. Get yours today and collect them all. Exclusively available at Circle K locations. A portion of the proceeds go toward the Cocoa Bird Recovery Program.
Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific. Banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Yes, sir. Another top-notch halftime show, as per usual here on Tall Tales. The Wuhan virus is kind of cut down on the ceremony, but Wuhan virus doesn't hurt cannon. And that barrage of cannon fire closed off the halftime show, as is our usual custom here on Tall Tales. So we are now at the beginning of the second half of Tall Tales, and you know what, Real Joe Cruz, what we need for the second half of Tall Tales?
What's that, sir?
We need someone to shepherd us through.
Oh, that would be sweet.
Yeah.
Our correspondent from the Pacific Star Hotel.
Yeah, what's his name?
The Gulag.
And what's his name?
Shepherd.
Shepherd. Yeah. Just what I was thinking. We need someone to shepherd us through. Okay, from deep in the heart of the Gulag, we have Shepherd. Good afternoon, Shepherd.
Good afternoon, Bob. Good afternoon, Bob. You know, if I ever get out of here, if you would be so kind, after the orchestra finishes with the 1812 overture, maybe they can play Freebird.
Play who?
That's for me. Freebird.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll work on that for you. Actually, you know, we're thinking of changing from the 1812 overture to the 1819 overture, but we'll see. We'll see what we can do. Okay.
Yeah. Sounds like a Twilight Zone episode.
It does.
Anyways, of course, I don't need to tell you, you know, the name of your show, Tall Tales. I am calling in today. I have a tall tale. You know, personal safety should be at the forefront of everyone's thoughts nowadays, and I have a tall tale concerning personal safety. And with your permission, I'd like to tell a little story. You may proceed. Okay. And Real Joe, feel free to add some of that sad music whenever you like. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a young man. He was in Africa with his father. They were on a hunt, and he came upon a very small elephant, and the elephant was in great pain. You see, the elephant had a thorn in its foot. And the young man approached the elephant slowly and very carefully pulled the thorn out of the elephant's foot, relieving him of the pain. And the elephant and the young boy, their eyes met. And the elephant reached out with his trunk and wrapped his trunk around the young boy and gave him a hug. And then the boy went on his way. Now, fast forward 20 years, and now the boy is a man, and he happens to be in a zoo, and he's walking by the elephant cage, and lo and behold, he catches the elephant's gaze. The elephant looks at him in the eye. He looks at the elephant, and he gets close to the fence, and the elephant approaches the fence, and the man thinks it can't be, but he climbs over the fence and approaches the elephant. He gets closer, and the elephant and him, their eyes meet, and the elephant reaches out with his trunk, wraps it around the man firmly, and then picks him up, smashes him headfirst into the ground, breaking his neck and killing him. So now, yes, how unfortunate. Now, there's a moral to the story. The moral of the story is you can never be too safe. So I'd like all the listeners out there in your international radio audience to remember to wear their mask, obey the social distancing rules, and be safe.
That's an interesting story, Shepard. I'd heard it before, but the version I heard, it wasn't an elephant, it was a donkey.
A donkey?
Yeah, same story, but it was a donkey, not an elephant.
Well, the long memory of the elephant is key to the narrative. I don't see how that would work, but maybe you will get together on that some other time.
Well, the duplicitousness of the donkey as a symbol for the Democrat Party would explain the denouement of the story.
Well, that's everyone's betterment, better education there. Okay, well, all's well here at the Pac Star Pen, and inmate number 710 is doing quite well, and don't have too much further to go. And I thank you for your time this afternoon. I love the show.
Okay, well, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, Shepard, and good luck with your incarceration. So long.
Yes. Yeah, arrivederci.
Arrivederci.
Ciao.
Yeah, ciao. Ciao, arrivederci, amigo. Okay, and I've got Michael on the line here. Good afternoon, Michael.
Hi, Bob. Michael again. I love listening to your show. Shep there, you can never be too safe. Yes, you can be too safe. You're going to stay in bed. You're never going to get up. You're never going to take a chance. Life is full of choices. We make a choice to ride a motorcycle. To me, the most dangerous act in the world. But even though I choose not to ride a motorcycle, I'm not about to tell someone else they can't do it because I feel it's too dangerous for them. We are adults. We're empowered with a brain by our Creator, and we need to start making our own choices and not sit around and let some government dictator or a third person tell us what our choices are for life and how to live. This is not living. This has been ridiculous.
I agree, and I used to ride a motorcycle myself, Michael. So I agree with you on both scores, and I think I know what you're alluding to, that our governor has taken too much control over that which should be left up to the individual in a free society, correct?
Yep. I mean, if I want to go to work and I want to take that risk of being exposed to this virus that's about as dangerous as a common cold or a flu, that's my choice. And if I think it's too much, I can stay home and have my own consequences. But forcing this will on people who have freedom of choice, this is not America. Mm-hmm. This is not America anymore. And this should not be our island.
And it's happening throughout the country that people who have some authority are magnifying their authority in the name of keeping the people safe. Can't go to mass because we want to keep you safe.
I know. If I choose to go to Mass and take my risk, that's on me. And we voted for a governor, not a dictator. We gave this governor very, very strong powers that was supposed to be used reasonably. You know, this power was supposed to be for a couple weeks or a week or so. No, once they get power, they just love it. And they're sitting here extending. I mean, she put out even her own guidelines. Why does she have to choose the date to start her guidelines? Her guidelines are universal. They're performance-based. Why not apply it to the history? And we'll find out, in other words, why are we applying it May 11th? Why don't we apply it on April 3rd, which is the peak of the crisis that she's done, which had all of 25 people in the hospital?
All good points, Michael. All good points, and your remarks are properly placed here on Tall Tales because you're certainly in accord with the thrust of this program.
I mean, why have we lost our ability to think for ourselves and make our own decisions? I mean, you ride a bicycle with or without a helmet. You ride a motorcycle with or without a helmet. Those are your choices. We're creating too much of a nanny state where we're supposed to have this belief that, oh, wow, but for the governor making choices for me, I would be dead.
Well, I'm going to pick up on the bicycles and motorcycles, and I'll see you. Individuals should make their own. Government shouldn't make the choices for the people, and raise you with the government shouldn't make dumb choices for the people. Because right now you can ride all over the island. If you're an adult, you don't have to wear a helmet. If you're 12 years old or older, you can ride around in the back of a pickup, which is just about as dangerous as riding a motorcycle without a helmet. But if you are an adult and you ride a bicycle without a helmet, you could get busted for that. There's some nonsense there if there ever were one. So it's bad enough that the governor's making choices for us. She's not even making good choices. Okay, well, thanks for calling, Michael. And I've got Shepard back to ride the Ferris wheel again, huh? Buonasera, amigo.
Yeah, thank you, Bob. Ciao. I couldn't agree with Michael more. And I'm glad my tale served as a nice segue for that, because I'm on board with all that. It was only a humorous look at safety, but I will like to double down on it and say I'm with them, and I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. And we do have someone who's acting more like a dictator than anything else, and I want to applaud Michael and his views.
Good call, Shepard.
Thank you. Ciao.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Ciao. Yeah, our part of our international radio listening audience from Repubblica Italiano.
Definitely international, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. I'm still dealing here with double pay, etc., and Lou's veto message. She says, given the wide support this measure garnered, the potential success of an override attempt, and my obligation to prepare for the cash needs this measure will require, I will likely be forced to begin the furlough notification process under Guam law. And as I recall, if you're going to furlough government employees, in other words, let them stay home, but without pay, you got to give like a 6 weeks notice. She says, well, I hope the furlough process is unnecessary. In my final analysis, my framework for COVID-19 differential pay, which is formalized and made effective in Executive Order 2020-08, attempted to strike a balance between the needs of our essential employees and what we could afford as a community. That differential pay was narrowly tailored and fiscally achievable. It benefited those who were exposed to COVID-19 risk without also risking government services as a whole. So that's her veto message. Now, there were a couple of interesting stories. And as I say, I was laboring under the misapprehension that the Department of Administration rules double pay was in effect, and if it wasn't being paid, it was because it wasn't being paid, not the first time that the government didn't pay that which it should have. But I was shocked to find out that the government had determined that it didn't need to pay the double pay, and obviously that decision was made quite some time ago, as I understand it, when the stay-at-homes were taken off administrative leave and put on regular leave. I don't know the date of that. I something that is floating around. If we had incisive reporters, they'd dig out all these details. But this double pay and executive order Wuhan virus pay was something was on my mind, and something that I was inquiring of Janella about. So when I got a response to my FOIA that said that the coordination between executive order Wuhan virus pay and the double pay and the personnel rules could be found in the Organic Act and Chapter 19, I did another FOIA on the same subject. This time she came back and said, the public record that you're looking for is the governor's veto message of Bill 336, which I just finished reading to you. So looking again at 336, I was thinking, did they think that by vetoing the bill with Section D in it, they would be able to kill the Department of Administration Wuhan virus, double pay? Because that just isn't the way statutory construction works. The fact that something is in a bill and then you veto the bill, the fact that a rule is mentioned in a bill and the bill is vetoed doesn't void the rule. The rule is still there. So when I read this, I said, Personnel Rule 8.406 is still there, even though you vetoed it, Lou. And the only reason for including subsection D was to coordinate the Personnel Rules 8.406 pay with the COVID-19 executive order, which set out 3 different levels of pay. That was the only thing that made sense to me. Until last night. And then, here's what happened on May the 6th. A Chris Barnett story. It's in the books. Double pay for the first responders during an emergency. But according to the governor's new chief of staff, that's being set aside, as the Leon Guerrero administration will be paying government of Guam employees based on the new COVID-19 response differential pay. It was announced in early April a new differential pay for essential public sector employees responding to COVID-19. Based on their level of exposure to the virus, they would be eligible for 25, 15, or 10% differential pay. And I'm going to submit to you out there in our international radio listening audience and all you government employees who aren't going to get the double pay, they had already made a decision that they were not going to pay, according to the personnel rules, double pay. They'd already made that, and that's why Lou issued that executive order. So I was completely misled. I was thinking, can they be that dense that they don't understand what they're doing? Unfortunately for you double payers, it wasn't that they didn't know what they were doing. They knew exactly what they were doing. They just didn't want you to know about it. So going on with this article, Governor Leon Guerrero announced during her April 8 press briefing, unclassified employees working in the office of the governor and Office of the Lieutenant Governor, agency directors and deputy directors will be excluded from this differential pay policy, except if their assigned duties require risk of exposure. The new sliding scale differential pay apparently throws out the Department of Administration rules and regulations mandating double pay for first responders or frontline workers responding to an emergency. Chief of Staff John Jr. Calvo said on today's episode of containing COVID-19, which is a KOAM program, the double pay question is extremely, and I have to say, he said, can I have a little music here? I'm going to say something profoundly. This is a quote from John Jr. Calvo. The double pay question is extremely, and I have to say this profoundly. Profoundly. That's not profound, that's sad. Profoundly. Well, I'll just have to give it the proper intonation. The double pay question is extremely, and I have to say this profoundly, that it is unsustainable in order to keep our government running. He was very profound when he said that. We can't pay the double pay and keep the government running. Calvo made it clear that double pay will not be paid, which means frontliners who should have been receiving the double pay when the governor declared an emergency won't be. Instead, they will receive the same amount as any other essential government employee based on their level of exposure. For example, cabinet members and 24/7 PAC-star quarantine staffers, Rebecca Respicio and Guam Housing President Alice Tyrone, 19th floor. Wow. 19th floor. Yeah, because they're exposed up there in the 19th floor, right?
Shame.
Yeah. Guam KUAM News asked Calvo what he thought about Tyrone and Respicio getting the same differential pay that a nurse, a doctor, fireman, a policeman, or a guardsman receiving, and if he thought they should be getting the same differential pay that Guam's, quote, real frontliners are getting. Calvo replied, you know, I can't say that they're doing the same work, but I can say they put themselves at the same similar risk exposure and being able to assist individuals, the individual in the quarantine facilities. And so that, again, that is a risk exposure. That is there that can't be denied. So they're already drawing director salaries over $100,000 each, and they're going to get a 25% bonus on that. Oh, okay, we got the seventh inning stretch coming up. We're going to come back to this after that. I'm going to stick with it until I've finished explaining it.
The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts of Guam Training.
Hi, I'm Jerry Roberts, and every day on The Ray Gibson Show, I get to comment on the incredibly diverse, fun, challenging, sometimes frustrating, often exciting, but always interesting world of work. I hope you'll be there with us.
You can find daily transcripts of The Extra Point at guamtraining.com. Tune in every weekday morning at 7:20 for The Extra Point with Jerry Roberts, brought to you by Guahan Insurance Services and First Hawaiian Bank on 93.3 The Point.
As we stand up to coronavirus by standing back with social distancing, Bank Pacific reminds you that you can come to the bank without going to the bank. Use many of our other delivery platforms like online banking at bankpacific.com, accessing cash at our ATMs, shopping with our debit cards. For businesses, we have secure cash and check drop windows, and we are employing a new smarter mobile app with remote deposit capture in the next few weeks. We're all in this together, and together we will win. Bank Pacific. Where others put branches, we place roots. Member FDIC.
Tall Tales is brought to you by Horizon Properties. Call 646-7616 or 777-7792. You can also visit them at horizonpropertiesguam.com.
Seventh inning stretch. Chicago, empty ballpark, empty baseball field. So we go from Chicago right back. I'd like to take you to the 19th floor, but Real Joe Cruz, we didn't do a 19th floor episode because yesterday you told us that you were not able to contact the 19th floor. Have you had any luck today?
No, sir, and we've been constantly trying. You know that our Tall Tales Intelligence Task Force has that type of software that listens for anything chatter when it comes to the 19th floor. We haven't picked up anything, so it appears that it's been completely blacklisted and shadowed.
Maybe we should send one of the trench coat guys over there.
I think we may have to.
Live
result to some
human might be what's required here.
Extreme.
Yeah.
Extreme.
Let's see. You finish up at 10 with the Ray Gibson show, and you start here at 16.
Yes, sir.
We'll
figure something out.
Yeah, we'll see how that works out. Okay, let's see. I've got our Carl on the line, and I also have somebody else here. Who else have I got on the line here besides our Carl? Jack. Okay, guys, we got to kind of keep it down here because I want to get through this whole double pay thing before the end of the day, if you don't mind. Yeah. Okay, our Carl and then Jack. Good afternoon, our Carl.
Hey, Bob, good afternoon. If you can't find volunteers, I'm willing to volunteer to go to the 19th floor, and I'll do it for Guam and for America.
Yeah, we'd have to give you a pretty significant disguise because as soon as you pulled up in front of the Pac Star, the word would go out, our Carl just pulled up.
That is true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a couple of quick things to bring up, and then I'll let Jack get on. I have to wonder how much of the expenses of salaries and stuff for Gov Guam can be lumped under the COVID dollars, the federal dollars, or Wuhan virus dollars. I'm just wondering if maybe there was a thought that they could lump it all under federal dollars and let the feds soak up all that expense. And
well, that's obviously not what Lou was thinking about with a double pay because she's not going to pay it, and I suspect if she thought she had a fighting chance of doing it, she'd have paid the double pay, got the Fed to reimburse us because that's how you pander to government employees. But she's going to have a huge black eye with government employees who thought they would be raking in the double pay and found out last night that they aren't.
Yeah, she's going to have to do some significant mopping up. That's going to be a mess. But anyway, she made her bed, so she's got to lay in it.
For sure. Yeah.
I've got one more quick thing to ask you. As far as the issue of transparency, I think we really began to have concerns about this administration, starting with the gutting of the open government law. And I remember from the early 2000s, you were a senator twice. You ran a really lean office, and I vaguely remember you had your expenses accounted online. I tried to look up your old blog. I tried Blogger and blogspot.com.
It's Bob. It's not a blog. It's a website. It's bobsoffice.org.
Oh, okay, that's why I couldn't find it.
Yeah,
okay.
bobsoffice.org.
But I remember you had a breakdown of all your costs down to the last dollar for both of your terms in office, and I just wish more senators would use that as a template for what they could and should do. I was wondering, is it possible to make it mandatory? There is an organization called OpenTheBooks.com which posts all state and government expenses virtually in real time once they're posted. And if anyone should post what their expenses are to let the voters look at all their expenses, it's the senators and the governor. And I was wondering, what are the possibilities of making that mandatory? I don't think this legislature would do it.
Well, Carl, the answer to that is we get what we get. We get what we'll put up with. And if we'll put, as you mentioned, it was demonstrated all the way back in 2003 that it's possible for a senator to post all of his expenses online, to have a column that shows how he voted on every single bill and why he voted that way. That's all possible. But if senators don't think they have to do it because the public doesn't demand it, they're not going to do it.
Yeah, that is just sad because it's just such a common sense thing to do. We vote them into office. We entrust them with tremendous amounts of power and money. And it seems that this is the way to be accountable to the people who put you in office, is to post, I don't know if it would be weekly or monthly, your office expenses down to the last dollar. And, I just hope that along with the some kind of bill to bring us back to a part-time legislature, that some common sense legislation like this, by some miracle, would eventually make it through. Because it seems this would really help to hold our legislators accountable, and maybe even something similar for the governor's office. I don't know. Anyway, Bob, I wish you would run again, but I know you can't because you've got your hands full with Tall Tales, and it's a far more important job. So if you did run, I would vote for you until you couldn't run anymore.
Well, you vote for me every time you tune in and hit that share button, Carl.
Okay, Bob.
Thanks for calling. Okay, let's see. I've got the usual suspects, Carl, Jack, and another Joe. Jack, somebody on Facebook said that you're staying on the 19th floor. Is that true?
Am I staying on the 19th floor?
Yeah.
Oh wow. I think, yeah, because the amount of Toro poo-poo that is stacking up right now goes past the 19th floor. But I called in regarding the 19th floor, COVID-19. Now there's 19 months in 2020 thanks to the executive order number 19.
You can't get away from the number 19.
I'll be filing chapter 19 at the end of this call. So, anyways, I'm calling to about the double pay and things like that. Let me get this straight. We're giving you double the money for a job that in your job description describes what you're doing right now.
Well, we're not. We thought we were. The suspicion was that according to the government of Guam rule, in a case of an emergency, that most of the people would stay home and get paid, but those who actually went to work and did the job that they were hired for would get double pay. But we found out yesterday that the double pay is not going to happen. And a lot of people who had probably spent most of that double pay are going to be very disappointed when they don't get it.
Well, I hope it doesn't happen, and the people that spent it, well, tough on you.
Yeah.
And I just listen. It gives bad names to actual first responders, and I don't know who came up with the kooky idea that you should pay a worker for something that's in their job description.
And we do it all the time.
It happens, and all of a sudden I don't see the people. I'm not getting double pay. I'm working out here. People working at the retails, like at the gas station and the various stores that are open, they're not getting double pay.
It's Jack, it's unfortunately too common in the government of Guam. We pay a 10% differential for people who work between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. Cops and firemen get paid that 10% differential. Well, cops and firemen, because of their jobs, work during those hours, but we got to pay them an extra 10%. So this idea of pandering to government employees has gotten out of control.
Well, if anything, it should have been, money for those who did come down with the illness for those who incur medical expenses because of the illness, for those who pass away to help with the burial because of the illness, but because you do your job for the past upteen years, and all of a sudden you're called and, hey, we really need you to do your job today, and you come back and say, well, no, it's too dangerous, pay me extra. I'm just lost at words, you know. I mean, I know real first responders. I'm not going to say that everybody here in the healthcare are first responders. No, they're not. All right? No, they're not. So, you know, I just don't, you know, we're weaponizing this thing, and it's always the people in the long run that end up paying for this stuff. It always gets sucker punched in the gut, you know.
Yep.
And it's just a shame that when assistance does come, it has to filter through the government first. And Carl, I'm sorry, no amount of part-time legislature is going to correct that. No amount. Okay. It's just really pathetic. Really, it's pathetic. It's.
Okay, I got your point, Jack. But I think a part-time legislature would, not because of the time they spent in session, but because of the people who would get involved in a part-time legislature. It wouldn't be people who are looking for a $55,000 a year job. Anyhow, Jack, I got another Joe on another line, and I got to finish this double pay thing
Bob,
up.
so I want to say that I've been a long-time listener, but short attention span caller. So, have a good day.
All right, thanks, Jack. Thanks for calling. Okay, so that's Jack, and then we've got another Joe. Good afternoon, another Joe.
Okay, Bob, you can pay me to just listen. I don't mind. No, but obviously it's a little bit different, but former Superintendent Fernandez, right, they didn't want him to show up at work, so they tried to get rid of him and try to replace him. They ended up having to pay him to stay home. Of course, it's different because I guess they in this case they do want. They do or they do not want government Guam workers to show up.
Well, let's talk about Fernandez first. Fernandez was fired, and Fernandez hired a lawyer, and the lawyer filed suit. And as a part of the lawsuit, during the time it was pending, there was a stipulation between his lawyer and the government that he would be paid during that period of time. So any similarity between his situation and where we are now is pretty remote. Where we are now is we have a rule in the personnel rules that said that people who, that during an emergency, people stay home and still get paid. Those who actually come to work get double pay. But I'm laying out the tale for you that the governor made the decision quite some time ago that double pay was not going to happen. And no one knew about it. You know, people were saying, oh, gee, I wonder when that double pay is going to show up in my check. I haven't seen it yet. We got to get it under the personnel rules. Well, we found out last night that it's not going to happen, and I went through all of the events to show you that this wasn't a decision that the governor made yesterday. This was a decision she made quite some time ago. Now, I think it's the right decision. Based on what she mentioned, it's would be extremely costly to pay everybody who came to work to do the job that he's supposed to do, that they're supposed to do anyhow. And she puts a $36 million price tag on it. But it was very duplicitous of her to not make that clear at the very beginning. And I think that is going to bite her really, really hard. I'm going to go back into this and show you how it's going to bite her hard, another Joe.
Yeah, it sounds about right, Bob. And I'm hoping that they have more of these different ways to have meetings with social distancing, and also with teleconferencing. I'm not sure how you feel about the teleconferencing. I think you just don't
I don't like
care for
it.
to happen. Is it just the session part, or just at all?
I don't like it at all. If it absolutely has to be done and it's legal, I would go no farther than tolerating it. I'm not going to accept it. I can tolerate it, and that's all. I know that some people not only tolerate and accept it, they celebrate it. Oh, yeah, we could do this. We could do this online, and we don't even have to go down there. And, once we do that, we'll never see any senators in the session hall again. I can bet on that.
I definitely feel that they should find ways to address the issues and questions that the people here in Guam have. It just doesn't feel as though they're reaching out enough. All of these elected officials and leaders, and a lot of questions are going unanswered. The radio shows like yours, you try to get the word out, but there's only so many hours in a day, and there's so minutes.
On this whole double pay thing, I'm way ahead of everybody else, to tell you the truth. Another Joe.
Okay, thanks a lot for your time.
Okay, another Joe. So we're coming up to the home stretch here on Tall Tales.
Half a day. This is Michelle from APL Guam. Here at APL, our expertise and extensive network can help you grow your business and reach out to more markets. As a responsible carrier, APL is also committed to a sustainable future, whether it's protecting the environment or investing our efforts in giving back to the community. Our dedicated teams in Guam and on the U.S. mainland are here to support you. Call 588-4651 or visit apl.com.
Wow, nice smile. So perfect and all.
Thanks. I owe it all to Dr. Robert Yang and his Smile Team. They do wonders for a healthy, happy mouth.
Got teeth? Don't wait until they hurt. Schedule your routine checkup and cleaning with Dr. Yang and his Smile Team. Suite 119 in the East West Business Center, Upper Tumon. Call 647-8702 or 3.
The best thing that happened to teeth since toothpaste.
Dr. Yang and his Smile Team.
They make smiles happen.
Talk Tales with Bob Klitzkie is brought to you by Bank Pacific, banking on the Pacific for 65 years.
Okay, so here we are. Churchill Downs, Louisville, Kentucky. You heard the call to the post, but no horses or jockeys answered the call. Even the horses got to stay in the stable because of the Wuhan virus crisis. But Tall Tales continues on. Wuhan virus crisis or no Wuhan virus crisis. We're now heading down the home stretch of Tall Tales. Means I got about 12 more minutes until the real Joe Cruz plays his favorite song, and mine too. And I just finished reading an article or report from last night's KUAM News where John Jr. Calvo, the new acting chief of staff who replaced Tony Babauta, who wound up under the bus in front of the Pac Star Hotel after having made a rapid descent from the 19th floor to under the bus, announced yesterday there's not going to be any double pay. No double pay. And then I went back all the way from the very beginning and explained how all these pieces fit together, including the governor vetoing the bill that was apparently exactly what she wanted, but it wasn't. Because she'd already decided that there wasn't going to be any double pay way back. But this was not something that anyone was going to talk about. She wanted to come on and say, well, I'm going to pay 10, 15, and 25%. And those who were actually working were saying, oh, boy, I get double pay and then another 10, 15, or 25%. This is great. Except for me. And I'm saying, does she know about the rules, the personnel rules, double pay? And, of course, she did. So we found out last night there's not going to be any double pay, and there's some very clever loophole finding here on the part of it's I'll tell you who's going to get burned on this whole thing. It's going to be the director of administration. He'll have to take the fall on this because it's he will take the credit for the interpretation that says, no, we don't have to pay anybody double pay. So this morning's paper, there's another Chris Barnett, and the title of it is Union Considering Legal Action Over Double Pay for Essential GovGuam Frontliners. So we use frontliners as the term for people who actually go to work for the government of Guam and do their jobs during the Wuhan virus period. Union, of course, refers to the Guam Federation of Teachers, and as an aside, this whole double pay kerfuffle is going to be a tremendous recruiting aid to the Guam Federation of Teachers. Anybody who worked for the government of Guam who thought he was going to get the double pay and isn't, where's my card? Let me sign up. I want the GFT to represent me. Hey, I got screwed. I'm not going to put up with this, right? So the story says Guam Federation of Teachers field representative says he can't wrap his mind around how the administration is not paying entitled to would be unsustainable and would result in furloughs if paid out. A quote, how in anybody's mind do they think this is okay? These are our heroes. Well, I suppose he's going to get around to telling us that they're they will get around to telling us these hard-working GovGuam employees, right? These are our heroes, and now you're saying, ha, we tricked you, and that's true. That is very true. They were all tricked, along with everybody else, including me. Now, usually I don't talk about myself on this show very much, Real Joe Cruz, but this time I have to, because I was tricked too. I was thinking, can they be so dense as to come along with this executive order when the double pay is already the law? And, of course, the answer was no. They knew exactly what they were doing, and they did not intend to pay the double pay from the get-go, but they didn't want to say anything about it. Yeah, and once you understand that, then everything else falls into place. The executive order, the veto message. We had Talina Nelson write to the governor saying, you're not paying the double pay. We had, Joe St. Augustine right to the governor, Governor, you're not paying the double pay.
It's all making sense now, sir.
Well, that's why I wrote to the governor. Joe St. Augustine said, yeah. So, everybody thought, including me, that the double pay was fait accompli. There was no way of getting around it. But the governor had figured out long ago that there was not going to be any double pay. So it was kind of like, you guys, I know how you feel, and I saw all your lists, and I sent them all off to the North Pole. No problem. And I'm sitting here to tell you on the 24th of December, tomorrow's not a special day. It's not, you're not going to get a lot of, it's just the 25th of December, nothing more, nothing less. And to do anything else would bankrupt Santa Claus. We can't do that. So the GFT rep says, how in anybody's mind do they think this is okay? These are our heroes. And now you're saying, ha, we tricked you. Through deceit and trickery, we've denied you your pay. And what? They're happy about it. I don't understand that. And as a senator who's up for re-election, why aren't they pounding down the doors? What are they doing? There's nothing fair here. There's no equity here. And they're all registered voters. They meaning all the folks who had already started counting that double pay. The GFT rep tells KOM's multimedia show the union is contemplating legal action and is also waiting for an opinion from Attorney General Levin Camacho. They said that the AG Camacho's ability to remain impartial is in question, given his rather close relationship with Adelup. I encourage the AG to take a look at ethical practices for attorneys on Guam, because he has taken a position that the Attorney General's office is legal counsel for the government of Guam, and therefore the AG has been defending the conduct of the government of Guam. But if you take a look, that really is not his job. His job is to defend the laws of Guam. If the government's violating the law, he needs to advise them of that and take the appropriate course of action. Well, this is the same Attorney General who advised the governor to gut the open government law because it would avoid bureaucracy. The same Attorney General. If the government is violating the law, he needs to advise them of that and take the appropriate course of action. Meanwhile, Senator Joe S. San Augustine, the legislature's finance chair, says double time should be paid to essential government of Guam workers. Both Koss and San Augustine say federal CARES Act fund could be used to pay double pay. The administration has estimated paying it would cost $36 million. And if they're forced to pay it, the result would be furloughs of non-essential GovGuam staffers. What a story this is. I thought I saw a couple of calls coming in, Real Joe Cruz.
Yeah, that was James. He didn't want to interrupt you, but he just wanted me to let you know that a hero goes above and beyond.
A hero goes above and beyond.
Yes.
This was James?
Yes.
Yeah.
But he said the first frontline first responders, they're doing their jobs. I could be wrong. But he also said they're overusing the word hero.
Yeah, well, you know, you've heard me talk about hardworking, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so an awful lot of these hardworking government of Guam employees are also heroes, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but we shouldn't use the word hero either, because there's another word that fits just as well.
Oh, yeah.
Heroin.
Oh, nice.
And that's not a drug either. So we should be talking about these heroines that work for the government of Guam, that come to work at the hospital and do all of these other things, right? Well, two really important things involved here. First of all, what I think is the inappropriate personnel rules, double pay for people who come to work and do the job that they get paid for. You know, and I know that there are people out there and say, well, if you get paid for staying home and doing nothing, then it wouldn't be fair if you came to work and did something. That wouldn't be fair. I got a feeling we haven't heard the last of this. You haven't heard the last of it for me, because we have that, and we have the sneakiness of the governor in this whole process. So we'll pick this up tomorrow. I'll probably get to Lou versus the 19th floor tomorrow also. So we'll see you tomorrow.